Okay, welcome back to the channel, and in today's video we have something different. Today is a reaction video on a customer experience. Of course, we did something similar when it came to the Van Cleef and Arpels situation. We have something kind of similar, and this time it revolves around Hetty. Some of you might know who Hetty is. Hetty is one of the head editors up at Show Studio. So someone that I've known personally for a while, and she has a story around her Alaïa shoes that has been going viral. So I wanted to react to it and kind of have a discussion around the state of fashion luxury, as I always do. So let's get straight into it.
These are from Alaïa. They cost me about £650. I've been trying out versions of them for the last year to check that I wanted to invest in them, and then day one of wearing them, this happened. I mean,
day one of wearing those shoes and that happening is absolutely insane. It means that they use like a cheap glue. And it's crazy because luxury brands have this thing where they price things high because they're a luxury brand, not necessarily for any other reason. Whereas before it was, they would price it high because you're paying for the name, but there would also be a base level of construction that you would expect. Now, those shoes are not unique in any way, in the sense that those sort of fishnet shoes are things that in Africa people wear in the market and stuff. I know in Asia people wear that in the market too. So it's a shoe that Alaïa definitely repopularized. When you look at things like the list index, they've been doing really well, and they've brought that back into a fashion sphere, those sort of like fishnet looking shoes. And it's just weird that they charge as much as they do, but they can't even improve the construction versus like the typical market version, right? It literally is constructed the same way that the market shoes are constructed. It's insane.
I'm so shocked that it's glued and that it's not sewn. Yeah, so I'm gonna go back to Alaïa and see what they say.
And this is what I mean. So I would assume that luxury brands glue their shoes together, because I've talked about this with Prada shoes and Prada loafers and stuff, and the quality is like really bad. But yeah, it's weird how a lot of people have the expectation that because it's so expensive, they would, you know, reinforce it and sew it together and have certain stitches in place. But that's just not the case, unfortunately. It's really, really unfortunate. But let's look at the next video. Well, let me read what the comment is. 650 for any shoe is actually insane. Sorry, unless they are like a timeless leather boot handmade in Paris, that will last a lifetime. No city fashion shoe like that should be more than 300. Okay, so my rebuttal to this comment, I don't know what she's about to say. I wanted to react to it first time on the channel. I don't know what she's about to say, but my rebuttal to this would be, at the end of the day, people spend their money on stupid things, like most people. Some people, their vice is cars. Cars depreciate like no man's business. If you're talking about what is the perfect financial decision, everyone should just buy a cheap car that can take you from point A to B and is, you know, economical in terms of mileage. And you shouldn't be buying any sort of BMW or Mercedes or Ferrari or anything. So if you own a Mercedes or a BMW, you're stupid using this logic, right? People spend their money on things that they value. And I don't think that there's anyone spending their money on fashion that they value should be diminished more so than anything else. Some people spend their money, you know, doing many other silly things. Some people spend their money on cigars. Some people spend loads of money on cigarettes. If you were to tally up all the amount of money that you spend drinking alcohol or, you know, smoking cigarettes, and these are things that are harmful for your health, and added it together, that might add up to 650. So I think it just depends. I think everyone always looks at these things as like, oh, how could you spend money on this? But it's like, if you examine their life and their own spending, you would see that there are many things they get enjoyment from, but it's not really a good financial investment if you're making that argument. That being said, in this specific case, I can imagine that Hetty probably bought the Alaïa version because she wanted to support the brand, because they repopularized it. And I really get that. One of the reasons why I'm really against fakes is because the people that come up with the idea, the artists in that case, are not compensated correctly. So that's why I have a massive issue with fakes, and I always will. In this case, there's a bit more gray area because this design kind of already exists. It's like, I don't think there's anything wrong with buying tabis that aren't Margiela Tabis, because tabis are not a Margiela thing. It's why they're called replicas. Like, tabis are a traditional Japanese design. So if someone makes a new brand and they're selling tabis, I think it's 100% fine to buy those. Even though Margiela popularized it, it's still not their design. So it's not like, you know, it's not an original design, if that makes sense. So it's not like you're compensating the original creator, because Margiela is not the original creator of tabis, if that makes sense. But I've rambled enough. Let's see what she says.
was insane of me. I feel like I really missed out some backstory in making that video, and I do seem very calm considering that £600 on a pair of shoes is insane, and it's definitely the biggest purchase I've ever made and not really something I can afford to be doing. I definitely bought these on the credit card with knowing that some freelance jobs were coming in with some money. The reason I bought them was I've been wearing, as I said in the video, the dupes for about a year, and I literally wear them with everything, with jeans, in the daytime, with dresses, evening. They're, again, as you say, Sam, such a trend shoe, and I really don't...
So let's pause there. A question I want to pose to you guys watching is, what does luxury mean in 2025? Something that really pisses me off is people try to obfuscate and change the meaning of what luxury is so that they can sell customers bullshit and market that as luxury. That's my personal opinion, right? So to me, luxury has to begin with quality, because all the original luxury brands, whether we're talking about Gucci, Chanel, Balenciaga, whatever, the reason why they were famous was they were associated with a certain level of craft. If we talk about the likes of Cristobal Balenciaga, right? And the sheer skill that he had as a designer. So the craft and the quality doesn't come without the luxury, in my personal opinion. Once you remove craft and quality, to me, I can't call it luxury. I hate it. I absolutely hate it when people, you know, change the idea of what luxury is and are like, but also it's how it makes you feel, and it's, you know, what's luxury to this person might not be luxury to that person. No. Let's start with quality first, and then we can start having the philosophical conversation around if I value it as much as the next person. But either way, at certain price points, the construction and quality should be superior to something way cheaper. So isn't it insane that she said she was wearing the dupes for years just to see if she liked it, and those dupes lasted years? Like, they lasted over a year. She was wearing everything, wearing it every day. It went with all the outfits, and she buys like the luxury version, and that doesn't even last a day. Insane. There should be a clear difference between a shoe that costs $650 versus a shoe that's way cheaper, which would have been the dupe that she bought.
Really don't believe in like investing in those kind of fad pieces, and I think that's where dupe culture can be a good way to kind of try out trends but not have all this money, and then it just becomes trendy and unwearable. I think spending that amount of money on something should be something that you keep forever. The reason I bought them...
I'm with Hetty there. When you spend $650 on a shoe, it should be something that you keep forever. So in comparison, right, shoes that have a very, very good leather construction, let's say like, you know, shoes from Trickers or shoes from even better brands with better quality than that, right? For like men that wear suits. Those shoes, the uppers are so good quality that all you need to do is just change the sole every couple of years. And those shoes could last as long as realistically you want them to last. So long as you take care of the leather, obviously you treat the leather from time to time. That's how any shoe at that price point should be. Like, even if it's a sneaker, they should be sewing it together. The construction should be way better. The amount of things that these brands get away with is beyond me. It's really beyond me.
Was several reasons. I mean, as I say, I was wearing the dupes the whole time. I work in the fashion industry, and I have kind of worked with Alaïa in terms of on a press coverage basis. So I get to see the clothes up close a lot, and the craftsmanship is kind of faultless and exquisite. It's kind of
the craftsmanship is exquisite with Alaïa clothing. I remember that runway show that they did where everything was made of merino wool. And they essentially tried to see how many different ways they can transform merino wool. That was an amazing collection. I really loved that. But the problem is, and I say this all the time, right? If you're buying luxury fashion and you want the stuff where the craftsmanship goes into it, you have to buy the runway pieces. Once we start looking at permanent collection stuff, accessories, they don't really put time and effort into that unless they're like bags and the really expensive bags. The time and craftsmanship doesn't really go into the accessories. They're kind of like an afterthought cash grab. That's how they see those things. So that's why with footwear, you know, cheaper tote bags, belts, I don't expect quality from quote unquote luxury brands when they create those products.
One of those obviously peak luxury brands, and accessories are, as many people know, a kind of access point into that. And I definitely expected the shoes to be this incredible quality. We're actually shooting Alaïa today at the studio where I work, and yeah, I was talking to people about it. So, oh my God, how are these shoes such a bad reflection of the incredible kind of ready-to-wear couture level pieces? I do definitely think that working in the industry probably puts some pressure on myself to get the real thing rather than just sticking to the dupes. I've got a lot of travel coming up this summer with fashion weeks. I know it's going to be really hot, and
She is correct. Working in fashion definitely does put pressure on you to buy the real thing. Even though, is it the real thing though? I think there's more grey area with this kind of shoe than most shoes. Most shoes, it would just be like, no, buy them. I would say, buy the more expensive version or just don't buy it at all so you can actually support the originators of the design. But in the case of, like I said, a Tabi boot or these kind of fishnet shoes that, you know, has been made forever and people in certain cultures wear that every day, it's not as deep. I think if you were to say it's only if you wear the Alaïa version that I can take you seriously, that's a bit brain dead in my opinion, when these are shoes that have existed forever. It's like Tabis too. I think it's quite brain dead to say, oh, if you're not wearing the Margiela versions, then you're not a real fashion fan, when Margiela literally calls it part of the replica collection and everyone knows that it's a traditional Japanese design. Everyone knows that Margiela didn't originate it. So how can you attribute only wearing the Margiela versions to being the real thing? So I think in this case, there's a bit more grey area than that. But I think, yeah, most times it's a bit different.
Really didn't like these shoes, by the way, when they first came out. I thought they were such a kind of fad shoe, but I do really like them now. But they are a great summer shoe. They're kind of perfect. Anyway, knowing I had all these fashion weeks coming up, I think there was definitely a part of me which felt insecure about wearing a kind of copy, if you will, even though you really can't notice I'm wearing long jeans. And I just thought, you know, I want to buy the real thing, and that excitement of being able to buy into Alaïa, such an incredible brand that I admire so much. But yeah, this whole experience is it's ruined my first proper luxury shopping experience. So Alaïa are fixing them at the moment at Harrods store where I bought them from. And when I go back, I don't know if they'll give me a refund, but I'm definitely considering asking for one because I just don't think I can justify spending that money after they've broken on one wear. And yeah, it's kind of tinged the whole experience. I totally agree.
So at least Alaïa are actually fixing it, because most brands, I was expecting her to say, yeah, they're like, our policy means we can't fix it or we can't do anything. I thought that would be the conversation. The refund, though, I'm not sure, because I think the only time you get a refund, I don't really know what their terms and services, but like terms and conditions with those things. But my understanding is that you can only refund footwear that you haven't worn, or that maybe you have worn it, but there isn't visible wear on it, so you can return it as an unworn piece with the original receipt. I think that's the only time you can return those things. Because if you go, I can imagine a store from their perspective, if you go back and you're like, oh, this broke in the first day, they might just assume, well, maybe you broke it yourself because you wanted a refund, and that was the way that you went about trying to get the refund. And I'm sure people have done that in the past. Like, people are weird. So I can imagine so many people try to do things like that they would have to put it into their policy that people can't do that. But let's keep watching. Maybe she might talk about this in the next video. Right, so the question is, serious question, are designer shoes actually an investment? I'd have thought they lose value with each wear, unlike a designer bag. Not sure investor's the right word. Well, yeah, designer shoes are in no way ever going to be an investment unless you have them for so long that they become like an archive piece. Like, I can imagine if you have some like Phoebe Philo, Celine shoes or boots, you could actually probably sell them for the price that you bought them for all those years back, because it's like the allure of that period now has kind of caught up. But for the most part, yeah, designer shoes are always going to depreciate in value compared to bags. Bags, if we're just talking solely investment pieces, bags are definitely, on average, better investment pieces than footwear, for sure. Footwear is also weird because footwear, the more you wear shoes, the more it forms to the shape of your feet. Even sometimes you guys will notice your shoes actually change shape over time to the shape of your foot slightly. So if you have wide feet, the shoes might get slightly wider and stuff. So yeah, I don't think footwear is a good investment, but things don't have to be everything in life does not have to be the perfect investment for someone to, get fulfillment and enjoyment out of buying it.
Whatever the price point, you should always be thinking of it as an investment, and that doesn't necessarily mean a monetary investment. I always think about what I really need and will I get good wear out of it. Will it last me through the years? What's the fabric? What's the quality? Is it just a trend piece, or is it something that has more longevity than that? However, if we're thinking more about investment pieces in terms of that they gain value over time, then handbags are definitely in a different game to shoes, I'd say, more generally. But it also really depends on the shoe. Shoes are obviously going to lose value in terms of their wear and tear is much more rapid than that of a handbag, which you can look after and care for in a different way than shoes, obviously. I think it also depends on the shoe. Is it an amazing high heel that you only wear once in a while for a really special occasion? Or is it like these shoes that you're going to wear them every single day? I didn't really think about buying these shoes for their resale value. I actually been searching for them on resale for ages, and I found ones that are like so scuffed up and they're still being sold for about 500 quid. So in terms of these, they don't seem to be losing much value, and that's why I bought them full price. So it made no sense for me to buy them for about £200 less than wholesale, scuffed up, when I could buy them new without the scuffs. And also just for the fact of, as an investment, I see them as an investment because of how hard they will work in my wardrobe and how much I will wear them. I think whenever you're buying fashion...
Okay, let's see what she says in the next video, the last update. Let's see.
A refund for the Alaïa shoes, and I failed.
So she wasn't able to get the refund. So yeah, that I assumed that she wouldn't be able to. I assumed that.
I did ask for one. They said I actually can't have one because the shoes have technically been worn, even though I wore them for probably half a day and sold.
Yeah, exactly what I said. Once you wear it, I feel like their policy means that you can't get, at least not a full refund, even if you do get any refund, to be honest.
Fell off, and they cost me £650, which I now won't get back. I did ask if I could have a partial refund, but it's not possible. I bought these because I wanted to invest in the craftsmanship of Alaïa, and them breaking on the first wear feels like it completely undermined those brand values which I wanted to invest in. So now I'm at a bit of a loss of what to do. I do still love the shoe, and I know that I will get a lot of wear out of it, but the sort of special experience of buying into the brand of Alaïa and spending so much money on something which is a lot of money to me, a huge amount of money, and has all been very tainted. So I'm trying to decide whether maybe I should list these on Vestiaire or something and see what I can do with them, because I have been keeping an eye out for second-hand ones of this style since this whole thing happened, and I have seen lots of people selling the flat for like £800 upwards, which is more than their wholesale price in the UK. So what do you think I should do? I just went...
Interesting. So she didn't show us the shoes, but I know they must be in wearable condition because earlier she said that Alaïa did actually agree to repair them. So she just doesn't want it anymore because she kind of has a bad taste. So I would say she should just sell it because, yeah, it's left a bad taste in her mouth at this point. Just list it and cut your losses. And then later on, like when you buy shoes in the future, I guess, look at the construction, and if it's glued together, which obviously those shoes obviously are, then don't buy it. Hey, I love Hetty. She's really sweet. I've met her in person a few times. Really nice person, and there aren't too many nice people in fashion. I think from Alaïa's perspective, even though it's not part of their policy, they need to look at who is making the complaint. Hetty is a well-known fashion editor. She goes to fashion shows every season. He's been covering fashion for years. That's not the kind of person that has anything to gain from lying about, you know, shoe breaking in one day. And it's well documented of her, you know, wanting the shoes and wearing the dupes. All of that is well documented. So in her specific case, they should actually just give a refund. If they gave a refund, maybe they should do it like, okay, don't post about the fact you got a refund on TikTok, so that everyone wouldn't start thinking they can get refunds. But I think certain people do actually need to have special treatment, especially someone that covers fashion, because these brands, what they're suffering from the most is a hit to their reputation with the tariffs situation that happened. They need to be doing anything in their power to try and rein back this understanding that luxury is still luxury. And it doesn't help when you're making shoes constructed the same way that the cheap market shoes are constructed, glued together, not that great construction. It's not great. It's not good enough. But anyway, on that note, let me know what you guys think in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next video. This YouTube channel runs on your support. If you want to support the channel, you can subscribe to my Patreon. You'll gain access to exclusive content that includes everything from my Patreon podcast, where I give a behind-the-scenes insight into the fashion industry, as well as a fashion book club where I review my favorite fashion books. You can also check out my fashion ebook, which highlights the best fashion journalists to follow, definitions of common fashion terminology, and how to determine what a good source of fashion information is. The links to everything are in the description below.